Let's do a little training in Figma before we will start with the real project. We have learned that design process has 6 steps: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and implement. You can use Figma almost in the whole process, but in this chapter we will focus on the training of the prototyping phase. It's probably not a really popular opinion because, we are jumping on the prototyping phase instead of dealing with empathizing and so on, but in my point of view, the prototyping phase is crucial because in this stage of the process we create the final product which will be judged by your clients, by coworkers, users, or even potential clients. That's very important, especially for freelancers who want to attract potential clients through those designs in their portfolio shared on their website and so on. That's why I have included this training in Figma before we'll start with the real project. We will also get familiar with basic functionalities of Figma like creating text, shapes, and so on. In the previous chapter we have met with the basics of Figma interface, and now we will go more into the details. The main task for this chapter is to create the following screen. For now we don't have to think about the context and the purpose of the screen that much because this is just Figma training. So the purpose is to learn how to create UI elements which you can see on the screen. Anyway, it's a profile page of a social network for sharing professional skills, experience, opinions, or searching for job opportunities. You can imagine something like LinkedIn, but like I said, we will focus now on the design and work with the elements inside. The first step is to download the Figma file available in the description of this chapter below. Once you have a file downloaded, you can just drag and drop the file to your Figma project dashboard and you will be able to edit your own copy of the template. I have prepared some basic elements like color palette, font, profile and cover image, icons, status bar and button home indicator, and also the card of the post. All of those stuff we will use for creating the screens that you can see in the preview image. Let's start with the design. First of all, we have to create a frame in the particular size of a device. If you click on this icon or press F like a frame, you will see the menu of predefined frames that might be useful for you. There are frames of devices like mobile, tablet, desktop, or for example dimensions for social media posts, so that might be also handy. We will choose the iPhone 11 Pro/X. You can of course draw your own frame as well, but we will stay with that iPhone dimension. After that we can drag and drop that status bar and the home indicator. You can place it anywhere in the frame and then just align with those shortcuts. In our case it will be on the center button and on the center top with those buttons. Then we can start at the top of the screen with the search panel and left arrow icon representing the back button. Based on the official guidelines by Apple, this area should be 97 pixels high, and we can group this area into a frame and align below the status bar. You can see the space between elements if you hold Alt and put the cursor on the second element. Then you will see the particular distance between elements in pixels. The frame is prepared, so we can drag and drop the left arrow icon. I think we can make it a little bit bigger. We can see on the right panel that the icon is 24 pixels wide and high, so let's increase it to 32 pixels. If you hold Shift during resizing, you will be sure that proportions will stay same of the element. Also, if you are working with the elements, try to keep sizes and spacing in multiples of 8, so 8, 16, 24, 32 pixels and so on. This method is called 8-point grid, but we will talk about it later in the UI design principles module. For now, just try to follow every size of spacing in multiples of 8. So let's create the search field. For the first time we will create a shape in Figma. If you click on the rectangle icon here, you can see that there are again predefined options like rectangle, line, arrow and so on. For the search input we will choose a rectangle. You can also use a shortcut and click on R on your keyboard. Create a rectangle with a 40 pixels height and 288 pixels width and place it with the 20 pixels margin from the right border, just like we placed the arrow on the left side. Also make sure that the objects are aligned in the one row. You can also use those align shortcuts. Now we can edit the style of the rectangle by putting a color. We can copy and paste the dark blue or use those predefined options and make it with 8% opacity here. Then we can make the corners rounded with this input. You will set it here, and we will set it like 20 pixels corners to make it round. The remaining is the icon that we can find again in the list and drag and drop it into the prototype. Again, we try to respect 8 pixels distance, set the opacity to, let's say, 50%, and now we can add the text. The text you can add simply with the T icon and click anywhere in the canvas and type search for anything and 3 dots like we have in the template. Now we can edit the style, so the color will be the same dark blue and set opacity to 50%. There are also other typography attributes you can adjust again in the right panel. So the font is Sora, that is predefined. Text size will be 12 and font weight to semi-bold, and place it into the rectangle. In the next step we can add those two images. The profile image is already prepared, so we can just put it in the canvas. Again, we can use this center alignment shortcut here, and let's check the spacing. We again stay with the 8-point grid system, so let's choose 24 pixels. A little bit more work will be done with the second image. The width looks the same as the width of the canvas, so we can keep it, but the height should be smaller. If we want to resize cover image, we have basically 4 options on how to edit. Firstly, we can crop the image and choose the proper height. The second option is fit. It will resize the frame, but the image is adjusting for showing all content inside. But we will choose the option called fill. The image is zooming in and out based on the size of the element, so we can set the height as let's say 104 pixels. Again, we think about the 8-point grid system. I almost forgot to add a white stroke to the profile picture, which should be, let's say, 2 pixels. You can add stroke again in the right panel by clicking on the plus in the section called stroke, and then just type 2 in the stroke width. To communicate better depth of the elements, we will make the background a different color than a pure white. Definitely we should use some kind of light gray, so just choose a color on the color picker randomly. Let's choose this one, yeah. Now it looks a little bit dark, so we will use this gray only as a background. That means we should add a white rectangle for the other information about the profile, like you can see in the template. To keep multiples of 8 of the proportions of the elements, we will make it, let's say, 320 pixels high. Also, we should slightly change the transition between background and this rectangle, so we can add a drop shadow. It's done in the effects section. We will learn more about creating cool drop shadows in the UI design principles module. So for now, just make the blur 15 and a Y value on 5. The color should be rather gray than pure black. What is missing now is to complete the section around the profile picture. First, we can add the name title, which should be in the center of the screen. We should keep the margins 20 pixels on the sides. I'm resizing it because this is flexible text, so we should set some maximum width of the text for really long names. Font is already chosen, so we will just think about the size, width and color of the text. Let's make it 20 pixels big. The width could be semi-bold and the color should be this predefined dark. The second text is the profession, which is stated as a UX/UI designer/freelancer. Again, keep the 20 pixel spacing on the sides and 8 points below the name text. This text should have much lower emphasis, so keep it regular and the size as 14. The text should have a little bit lighter color as well to communicate the hierarchy of the elements. Then we have followers and the following indicator. First we can make the circle with a count of followers, so choose the ellipse tool in the upper panel. Let's make the indicator 48 pixels wide and high. We hold shift during resizing to keep the proportions the same. The color is again dark, but let's make 10% opacity as it's just a background. Now we can add the text which is inside the circle. Set the size to 14 pixels and the style should be semi-bold and also the dark color. The text followers, which is below, will be a little bit smaller, so let's say 12 pixels. The style might be bolder and the color should be lighter in my point of view, let's say 60% opacity. For the second indicator we can just copy the elements and change text to 122 and following as the description. Let's continue with the call to action button below, which is the send message button. First create a rectangle which will be 40 pixels high. The width will be based on the proper text inside. Also we will provide an icon inside the button to make it more intuitive for users and put it inside the rectangle. Now we can add the text which will be 16 size and semi-bold in the pure white color. Set the 8-point spacing from top and bottom border and adjust the right spacing to, let's say, 16. Now we can group the content by using Command and G shortcut. Also we should add the second button with those 3 dots representing various other actions that could be done on the profile. Then it will be shown in some kind of drop down. We will also take a look on those functionalities of Figma in the next chapters. One of the last thing is to add the component with proper pages changing the content below. So what we have to do is to add the text in 16 pixels and semi-bold style and the dark color as a default. We need a section called feed, skills, experience and story. Let's choose all text, align vertical center and set the distance between 240. The active page will be feed, so let's make it purple and add a rectangle behind. This rectangle will be again purple, but the opacity is set to 10%. The border should be also rounded. Now let's put the rectangle behind the feed page and adjust the size. Let's keep the left and right side 16 pixels and 8 at the top and also bottom border. Now all you have to do is to group the content and put it into the canvas. Keep 24 distance to the primary button above and 20 pixels to the left border. And one of the very last steps, which is easy because the post component is already predefined, so just drag and drop it to the proper place below the white rectangle. Again we will align on center and set the distance to 24 pixels from the upper section. For communicating the brand of the app, we will put the half circles next to the profile image. We will just create a circle like in the previous cases. Our circle will have 48 pixels proportions. If you want to create a half circle, you can use this little dot which is visible if you select the rectangle and then set the value to 50%. The first half circle should be yellow and the second one should be orange. And then we can just drag and drop them next to the profile image. And that's it, our first UI screen in this course is done. So this is Figma. I believe that now you are a little bit better oriented in Figma. Of course, this was just an introduction showing the most important functionalities of Figma. We will definitely go deeper during solving the real project, and we will start with it in the next chapter. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to complete the quiz and see you soon.